Hey guys, it's me, Tiffany. Thank you so much for joining me today on Ascending with Tiff Talks 22. I wanted to talk to you guys today because the other day about fear, because the other day I had an experience and I had this experience and I went to bed and I woke up with such clarity. So let me just get into it. So you guys know, if you follow me on social media at all or ever, that I strongly believe in signs and symbols and angel numbers. It is my belief that the angelic realm guides us on a daily basis through a system of numbers, a system of symbols in nature. Could be through an animal, could be through the elements. It just depends on how tapped in or tuned in you are to those things, right? Most of us are moving so fast that we don't really observe them. But something that I have most definitely learned to do in my awakening process is to slow the hell down, okay? Slow down and to be observant and to be open and receptive to this amazing guidance, right? So for a few months, first let me tell you with the angel numbers or the symbols, when usually I Google a specific number that I see or a specific animal that randomly crosses my path, which happens all the time. Usually when I Google this information, the article that is brought up first or the interpretation of the number that is bolded and highlighted is applicable to whatever I'm dealing with, right? So it had really been probably a few months where if I would go to the park, I would see rabbits. I remember one morning I got up to drive for Uber Eats. It was like 4 a.m. I was just up, and when I'm quiet and alone and isolated like that, I really have great conversations with spirit. So I got up at like 4 a.m. to do that. And I was in a residential neighborhood in North Dallas, y'all. And there goes Peter Cottontail hopping across the street. And, it's North Dallas. It was very much city. You know what I mean? So I just thought that was pretty random, pretty odd. And, of course, people would think, okay, rabbits are about luck. Not necessarily. Definitely about fertility. Definitely about growth. But also, guess what? They are symbolic of fear. Okay. And then there was another day, probably fast forward a few weeks or a month maybe. And I was helping my friend with her business, and we were in front of her house. I think that's Cedar Hill. We were in front of her house. And I looked up, and what is hopping across the street? A rabbit. She was like, what is going on? So, of course, when I looked it up, it was about what? Fear. But me and my ego was like, okay, spirit, I don't get that. Like, why do you keep saying I'm fearful? I am not afraid of anything. What is there for me to be afraid of, etc.? Honey, sometimes, and I've been getting this message I had been getting this message quite a bit too. Sometimes, some of our wounds are more apparent than others. So what you think is not an issue actually is, and it's right below the surface waiting for you to dig into, right? So I got an angel number the other night that was about fear. And I was like, you know what? I didn't break down, but it was definitely like, fine, you got me. Let me express this, explain this, and I was like, you know what? Doesn't it make sense for me to be fearful right now? So I started listing speaking out loud, not like physically writing them, even though that is a good idea to do. I started speaking out what my fears were. Sure, I am fearful of failing. I'm fearful of this. I'm fearful of this. And I just started naming some things, y'all. And it was almost like an aha freaking moment. First of all, let me tell you how I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders almost immediately. And I realized that that's because those are beliefs that I had been carrying for such a long time. Even though I was thinking that it was related to my current circumstances, it really was much like further reaching back than what was happening immediately, you know? So the dictionary describes fear as an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. That's the dictionary explanation. And then, there's the acronym that's pretty popular lately, false evidence appearing real. So, there are rational fears and there are irrational fears. Most of the fears that we carry tend to be irrational. They tend to be based on a limiting belief that we've told ourselves over time repeatedly, or that we have picked up from our childhood or whatever, that are just not true. They are irrational. And so I was looking up spiritual laws surrounding, what the hell is that word? Sorry. I was looking up spiritual laws surrounding fear, and I found that fear attracts destruction. And I don't think that's the law. That's just a sentence that grabbed my attention and resonated deeply. So, what do I mean by that? Fear attracts destruction. Because fear is paralyzing. Fear keeps you from moving. Fear keeps you from taking action. So, when I had seen the bunny rabbit at my friend's house, what I was doing was taking time to help her to pour into her business. Spirit had already began to kind of nudge at me like, okay, if you're spending all this time working on her business, when are you going to focus on your business? And then why would you prioritize her business over yours? Because subconsciously, maybe, you are afraid that your business won't be successful. And that is a limiting belief. Y'all, it was like, oh my God. But I think that we hurt ourselves because, one, we are so afraid to admit these unpleasant emotions apply to us. Like fear, stubborn, prideful, egotistical. It's a lot of emotions that have the stigma of unpleasantness. And so when it comes to us and looking at our own crap, we are reluctant to admit that they apply. Okay? So I realized that, wow, well, first of all, of course, Spirit is right because they are always right. So if it comes up, if a message is given to you, there is a reason for it. They are not going to keep saying you're being stubborn if you are not stubborn. They are not, or your action is not based in being stubborn. They're not going to keep telling you that, trust me, you are fearful, if they haven't already seen and noticed that fear is at the root of your paralysis. Okay? So let me tell you a little bit more about fear. Like I said, it is paralyzing, keeps you from taking action. It's poison, which is why it's destruction. It's poison. Because if you're not moving forward, you can't grow. If you have a limiting belief that your business is going to be unsuccessful, or you have a limiting belief that this type of person is going to treat me this way, which is not true. You could not ever know how anybody is going to treat you based on the action of one in comparison to the millions and billions of people that are in the world, right? So it just robs you of the truth and kind of keeps you in a false state of mind. So for you to stay and live in fear is to live in a lie. Let me give you another example. If you're in a relationship that you know you're unhappy, and you know that or feel that you would be better as a single individual, or you feel that you would be better in another connection, but you begin to tell yourself it's easier to stay in this commitment because such and such and such and such, then that is your fear of being able to either stand alone, your fear of being able to move forward, your fear perhaps of how people will react to your desire to want to be alone. Perhaps your fear of how people will react to you breaking the ideal picture that they had painted of you in their head. Either way, the basis of it is what? Fear. So because of those beliefs, you decide to stay in an unhappy situation. You decide to stay in a connection that's not fulfilling you. So again, let me say, to live in fear is to live in a lie. It's a facade. You are essentially lying to yourself. And I always say this, if you are willing and comfortable in living a lie and lying to yourself, and especially if I am on the outside looking in and I see that, okay, this person has tricked themselves into believing that this is true, then every bit of communication that I have with you, I'm going to second guess it. Because if you're willing to lie to yourself, then I know damn for sure you're going to lie to me. You know what I mean? At some point, it's inevitable. Because you're not even being honest with you, you know? So, that said, how do we fix these things? First step is acknowledging this fear. Acknowledge that it is a fear. Acknowledge what these fears are. Because, y'all, I'm telling you, once I started speaking, I just started speaking. And I'm pretty sure this is an exercise that I need to revisit, because I could probably apply it to many more areas in my life. So you're going to acknowledge your fears and acknowledge that they are not true, that they are not real beliefs, not real. They're not factual. And you can acknowledge this like I did by just kind of isolated conversation and speaking them out, or even writing them out. If it is something that has taken you a really long time, I don't want to write mine out, because I feel like I'm such a powerful manifester. So to put something in writing kind of gives it like a solidified credence, and I don't want to do that. So my choice is just to speak these things, and as I'm speaking them, then acknowledge that they are not real, okay? But if you're a visual person and you need to see things, I encourage you to write it out. So you write out these fears, right? And you say, all men are dogs. No, so what you're afraid of, what you may be afraid of if you have this type of belief, is being hurt by a man who is a dog. So this limiting belief that you carry has framed your thought process, and you believe that this could happen. So my next step for you would be to rephrase that fear into a positive. So instead of saying, what if I get hurt? It's like, what if I attract the love of my life? What if this turns out to be the best connection I've ever had? Like, rephrase your fears. If you say, I'm afraid that I might fail, I'm afraid of failing, rephrase that. Rephrase the thought. I believe that I'll be successful. What if I'm so successful and it blows up to this level and this level and this level? So whatever it is that would be your desired outcome, make that your new belief. Rephrase it, right? And because we are humans, and especially when you've carried a belief for such a long time, your beliefs kind of become hardwired. And so they could be hard to change. They could be difficult to change. So you take those fears, those beliefs, those hardwired beliefs, and just work through them like one by one. So you're going to write them down or just express them. Acknowledge that they are beliefs and not truths. And then you're going to rewrite a new truth regarding your fear. And then the final step is going to be to automatically take different action. Because at this point, your brain is thinking things differently. Your brain is processing this new belief. So it's going to allow you to move out of stagnancy. You often hear the phrase, act as if. So in this case, we are going to act as if our new belief is the truth. And so if you're acting as if your new belief is the truth, and your new belief is, I am going to be successful, then you are going to take the steps that lead you towards success, not the steps that lead to or foster your fear, which was what? No steps at all. Because why? Fear is paralyzing. Okay? That's good stuff, y'all. So as you're acting as if your new belief is true, your vibe is changing. Your actions are changing. And the universe is going to respond in accordance to that. So as you avoid taking action, it's going to continue to allow your previously and long-held limiting belief to feel like it's the truth. And that's not what we want. So this particular day, when I had this aha moment, it was really late at night anyway, and I was up talking to Spirit. It was really late. And as I listed these fears, it was like, okay, what next? So, what next? The next day, guys, when I tell you, I woke up feeling so differently. I did not feel trapped in my circumstances anymore. All of a sudden had all these new ideas and steps to take that I wanted to move forward in. My plan, where I thought I had been planning the entire time or trying to plan and just wasn't making any leeway, my plan just became so clear. It became so clear. So that's what made me look at this like, wow, I had been keeping myself trapped in this position because of my limiting beliefs that I had allowed to become fear in my life. Whoa. Y'all, it is tough. It is tough to look at yourself sometimes. It's tough. And we're human, so I understand that. But I am here to heal me and to help you to heal towards becoming your best self as well. So I'm just going to share these lessons, these epiphanies, the clarity that the divine gives me as he gives them to me, he, she, whatever you subscribe to, as they're revealed to me and I'm learning and I'm growing, I will not hesitate to share the same with you. Okay? So I hope this resonated for someone. I hope that you guys got something from this. Let me know. I was going to say in the comments, but I'm not sure if there'll be comments on here. I think that's only when I go live. which I haven't done yet. But I do have the Facebook group Awakening with Tip Talks 22. And that specific group is for discussing things on the podcast that are relevant to the podcast. But also, I do believe that my time on Facebook is drawing to a quick close. And so I'm actually working on actively, not planning it, I'm actively working on setting up my blog page. And so there will definitely be room for responses and whatnot there. So, and I'll keep you posted on that. But in the meantime, in between time, feel free to comment either on YouTube under the video because they're automatically shared there, or on my Instagram page, or the Facebook group, or my Facebook page. There's plenty of access. So if you have questions, if you have comments, or you feel something about it, go ahead and share it with me. I love to hear from you guys, and I am excited to do so. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I love you so much, and that is just the truth. So I say it. If that makes you uncomfortable, well, I don't apologize. All right, guys, vibe high. Catch me in the next round. Please do like, share, subscribe, all the things. Bye.